Hello and welcome back to the Albion Obsessed podcast. You join us on the eve of our first Premier League fixture of the 2025-2026 season, a season that I'm sure is going to have intrigue. It's going to have some twists and some turns. And if Tony Bloom, the man at the helm, is to be believed, it could also have an attempt at silverware. But before we dive into any of that, let's see who we've got on the show tonight. We are joined by Joe. Joe, my friend, it's good to see you. It's been a while. How have you been keeping?
I am doing very well, Thomas. How are you, sir? I know you've been involved in a big old house move and a relocation. Tell us about that. Where have you been, Tom?
Yes, I'm glad. First of all, Joe, I'm glad to hear that you're doing all right. I have relocated from the West Midlands down to West Cornwall, so I'm proper at the arse end of the country. But it's lovely because I'm literally 2 minutes away from the sea. So I'm back where I belong. There are some lovely seagulls that live on my house, and they wake me up at the crack of dawn. But actually, that noise it fills me with utter joy. So yeah, it's been good. It's been a mad couple of weeks, but we're settling in really nicely. Thank you for asking. Dagan, how are you, my friend? You're back at school in the US, aren't you?
Not yet. We are preparing. We're in teacher preparation weeks. We have 2 weeks of build up to prepare for the kids to come back. So it's an exciting time. But yeah, doing well. I'm sure. How far off is that for you, Tom?
2 weeks, but the teachers in the UK don't go back until like the day before the kids. That's normally like an inset day for us where we do like all the safeguarding stuff. Hello and welcome to Teaching Obsessed. Yeah, that's how we roll in the UK. But yeah, 2 weeks of like teacher training and stuff. Oh, kill me now.
No, it's actually great. It gives us a long runway. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, I can talk a lot more about our school. It's special and awesome.
But join us on the next episode of Teaching Obsessed for that.
Yeah.
We also welcome back Adam. Adam, my friend, it's good to see you. How have you been keeping?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. As you see behind me, I've been doing some DIY last week, so it looks all right. I think I thought I'd show it off for a change. I think the last time I did a pod with Joe, it looks a bit bare and wooden, but it now looks a bit nicer. Weekend.
Adam has a house now.
Yeah.
I'll have to get you around here, mate. As you can see, there's some boxes over there that need doing and some shelves that need putting up. So, Adam, if you fancy a trip to Cornwall, you just let me know, mate.
I could do the unloading boxes. I don't know. My partner would tell you not to let me near with a drill, so I'm not allowed drills at my house. So I have to get my father-in-law to do that.
Well, hello and welcome to DIY Obsessed. So, guys, we're going to talk this evening about a couple of different things. We're going to talk about pre-season. We're going to be talking about the transfer window, some rumours that have been circulating about certain players. We'll be talking about the firm ins and outs. We'll also be, of course, looking ahead to our fixture tomorrow, our first of the new season. But, Joe, let's start off with some pre-season stuff. Pre-season is a bit of a funny time. You play some fixtures against a variety of different teams. In the past, Brighton have played against local Sussex teams, usually non-league. And we always tell ourselves when we concede goals or when we lose or whatever, that it's just about getting fitness. But this pre-season, we haven't lost a single game. So can we take anything from what we've seen in pre-season? We talk about the different, levels we've played. We played Wickham, Stoke, Las Palmas, Southampton, and Wolfsburg. What have you taken from pre-season?
I think there's definitely things that Fabian Hertzler would have taken and wanted to stamp out and improve before we actually take to the field in the Premier League this weekend, because, we've been caught on the break a few times. We let a 2-goal lead slip at Southampton. That brought us back a little bit of PTSD from last season. So you would hope that all of these mistakes that have been made in pre-season are ones that, I won't do it again, boss. I'm sorry. So yeah, I think there's lots we can take. The most exciting thing for me that I've taken from it is just our continual work on that high press, and Yankuba Minter and Jorginho Rutter sort of leading that as well. Dagan spoke last season about Minter being a pressing demon. And we're seeing that still, and I think we're going to see a really huge season from Yankuba Minter from what we've seen in pre-season. So he looks to be that little bit more sharp in terms of decision making, that little bit quicker if he can even get quicker. So yeah, it's a really exciting thing to take away, and I'm just itching for us to get out onto that pitch tomorrow and hopefully get 3 points under the Sussex sunshine.
Oh, that does sound lovely. Now, of course, guys, we are live. So, of course, drop your comments in about your highlights of pre-season, anything that surprised you or excited you. And Dagan, that's what I'm going to ask you. What have you seen that has excited you or surprised you?
I don't know if there have been many surprises, but I've liked what we've seen from some of the new additions. In particular, I'm going to butcher the names. Did Brighton release one of the, here's how to pronounce our names things like some of the other teams did today? Because, boy, I would love that. But De Kuiper, please help me. I've really been excited by what we've seen from him. Certainly there's critique that he's, not much of a two-way guy and isn't a great defensive player, but he certainly adds a lot going forward, and seems to have a nice sensibility about when to make that final dash in. I think he scraped the ball off the far post, punched in the back of the net, and that I just can't recall seeing one of our wide players do that before, or one of our fullbacks get that far up the pitch. I think maybe Joe, you might have said maybe Purvis did once over his time, but really liked what I saw from him. Honestly, really like what we saw from Coppola as well. And I think there'd be questions both with him and with Buscagli once he's fit and ready. When is the time when Dunk will maybe not be the regular starter? What does that mean in terms of who's the captain? Lots of questions. But the early signs from these two new additions, really, really positive. At least those two in particular stood out to me in their performances. A lot to be excited about. Really excited.
Yeah, there definitely is. And, it raises some very head-scratching questions, as you say, David. So it'll be interesting to see how those new additions fit in. More about that in a bit later. Adam, same question to you. Pre-season, fitness, yeah, great. But what have you seen in pre-season or heard in pre-season that has excited you about the up-and-coming season?
I think for me, probably a little bit different to what the others said. I think just the pressing element actually has been quite impressive. I think in those games in Spain, especially the pressing, was just so high, so eager to win the ball back. I think about 2 or 3 of our goals, I think in those Spain games came from up the high press break, winning it in our box, in their box, and just, finishing it off. So I think that's exciting. It's just whether we can keep that up, against Premier League outfits, because I appreciate we were playing the likes of Stoke, etc. No disrespect to Stoke, but it's a lot different against those sort of bigger sides as well. So that's something that excites me. And I think as well, as Dagan said, the new signings are settling in well. I think the squad depth as well is pretty good. Even though we've got some injuries, there's plenty of cover in a lot of positions and a lot of competition, really. So it's really exciting going into the new season.
Yeah, it really is. And Michael, just come back to your point that you made about Ferdy. I'd almost forgotten about Ferdy, if I'm being brutally honest. But it's to use the old cliche, he's going to be like a new signing, having him back and fit. And it's going to be really interesting to see how we line up. Because I talked to you, Dagan, about surprises. I think me and you seeing the amount of defensive players that we brought in early in the summer indicated that we may see more of a back three. And yet we haven't seen that almost at all in pre-season. So was that a surprise, Dagan, in terms of as the pre-season went on and we just didn't see it? Is that still going to be a part and parcel of Hursla's plans this season, do you think?
I'm glad you asked, Tom. So I think a big part of why we didn't see it in the preseason, especially early on, was the availability of center backs. We really didn't have enough to have 3 on and then sub 3 new, and it was clear we wanted to get 22 different guys game time, and so I think that made it make more sense to play a back 4 because we had the requisite number of subs to put on per those positions. As we got later in the preseason, I wondered, would we see it? But I think Webster's injury, whatever mystery is going on with, Igor's situation seems to be sort of uncertain. It seems reasonable to think with Webster's injury, maybe that opens the door for Igor to be a rotation player and to, get more time, but he may want to be more than a rotation player. And right now I would say he's probably at the very bottom of the pecking order among those center back options. There are only 5 of them, but I think he's probably the 5th. I think we will see back 3 at some point this season. I really do. I'm curious to see how much, but I think the wide players that we have are better suited to being wingbacks than they are to being left back, right back. And we said as much, along the way, as you and I were talking about this over the summer. So a bit surprising that we haven't seen it. I think there's a justifiable reason. It'll be interesting to see whether we evolve and that becomes more of a staple. And maybe that's going to be Biscaglia and Coppola getting sort of bedded in and fully ready to take up, 1 or 2 of those spots, depending upon how Dunk shakes out. Yeah. Thanks for asking.
Happy to do so. Yeah, it's I think it was one of the things that as soon as we nailed on Coppola and Biscaglia, and then brought into Kuiper, I was like, yep, we're going for a back 3 because Ferdy's a wing back, Lamptey's a wing back. Minter, we saw last season when we were in a defensive back 5, he looked really good there as well. So I was going to put my mortgage, which I'm glad I didn't, on us playing a back 3 system. We haven't seen that. Maybe, as you say, Michael, we will. And it does allow that certain amount of flexibility. And talking of flexibility, Joe, there is a man that seems to be incredibly flexible. And that is one Dutch player that we brought in last summer. You may recall he was a centre midfielder, young Mats Wiefer. He seems to be plying his trade at right back now. He ended last season really positively in that position, and he seems to have started pre-season in the same position. What do you make of Mats seemingly adapting to this new role?
Yeah, I think it's important for us to have players that can adapt like this in moments where, obviously, last season we suffered an incredible amount of injuries, which meant that Mats had to sort of fill in there, and he done an incredible job, and that seems to be the role that Fabian wants to see him in a little bit more, having continued that into pre-season, because he would have had the opportunity to move Mats Wiefer into midfield if he wanted to, and see what he could have done there, because we've got a lot of players available and ready to play in that spot if he wanted to move Mats back into his more natural role. So, it's incredibly important for a manager to have so many parts that he can move around as and when. He's spoken about that physicality, and I think Mats Wiefer gives us that in abundance. He's an incredible duel winner. He can get out the pitch while he can pick a pass. So he's got a lot of attributes that make him a good fullback. So it'd be interesting to see if that continues into the new season, and see if we start him there tomorrow. But as we've mentioned, Lamptey, Veltman, Ferdy Kadioglu, there's a lot of players that are ready and waiting to fill in if Mats isn't the option. So I think we should allow this experiment and see what happens. And if Mats needs to move back into his natural role, we've got plenty ready to come in.
Yeah, it'd be the thing for me that is going to be really interesting is because, as Dagan's already alluded to, we've obviously brought into Kuiper a very attacking left back, and you'd think playing a midfielder at fullback would naturally mean that midfielder, steps further up the pitch, which is a more natural position for them to be. The only slight concern I might have with that system would be leaving 2 at the back, which is a risky thing in the Premier League. So it'll be really interesting to see how we adapt to that. Another player, Adam, who's shown their versatility during pre-season is one Jorginho Ruta, mainly used as a 10 last season. He's been playing up front a bit in pre-season. Danny Welbeck not being the preferred choice, or at least not starting the game against Wolfsburg in the second game. Apparently he played in the first behind closed doors friendly version. What do you make of Ruta being a seeming option for a striker?
I think I'm not sure he's probably the best option in terms of he does naturally, even when he's playing in that number 9 role, he plays as a 10 in a way, because we've seen him, he drops into midfield still, and then that leaves us a bit short, whereas Welbeck stays up there, is trying to make the runs, is on the centre-back all the time, whereas Jorginho drops in to midfield, and then you leave a gaping hole up front where there's nobody there. So I'm a little bit concerned by him playing there. I think he's certainly better in the 10 role. Whether the reason Welbeck didn't play in the Wolfsburg game at the Amex was because they've already tried that combination, Ruter and Welbeck, and they know it works with Ruter as the 10 and Welbeck as the 9, or I'm not really sure if there's too much we can read into that, but it's not helped with obviously the Greek strikers not being able to sort of bed in as quickly as we'd hoped. We haven't seen Kostoulas at all, really. Tsimikas, again, not very limited. So you sort of are left with Ferguson going on loan again, Pedro obviously having left for Chelsea, you are left with Danny Welbeck as your only recognised number 9 there. So I do worry if he does get injured, whether we, do go to that false 9, whether it will be Ruter or whether somebody like if O'Reilly's still around, whether O'Reilly could do that false 9 role, because he's a bit more of a presence in a way up there and might sort of fit that role quite nicely. I mean, Gruder did a lot of the false 9 last year as well and did an all right job, but it just really depends. But I think for me, he doesn't strike me as a natural number 9, because I think even I remember at Leeds, he played a bit more of that number 9 role and it didn't really work out for him. Whereas as soon as he's dropped into that 10 for us, he's been excellent, and I think he just makes it tick. And I just think he's obviously naturally gravitating towards that midfield role. So I'm just sort of a little bit concerned, but hopefully it's Welbeck up top tomorrow and Ruter in the 10, and there's nothing to worry about. But it's just that worry if Welbeck gets injured, what we do in that situation.
Yeah, all very good points. Dagan, do you want to jump in there?
Well, I do. So, Adam, I'm going to lean back to your point earlier because I thought it was a great one on the thing you saw that you really liked. I think we looked our best pressing with Jorginho as the 9. And you're right, he does drop deeper, but sort of out of possession, his pressure, Welbeck can't match that. So I think our pressing is probably less effective with Welbeck in that spot. So there's a give and take. So I'm especially interested to see what Hürtler decides for this first game, if he wants that pressing strength to really make things difficult for Fulham at the back, especially with both of their wide options potentially out for this game, I think. You may see that there's an emphasis put on that, would be my thought. But I thought you were dead on with that being a real highlight of the preseason. So for me, that elevates Jorginho. And I will say at Leeds, I think the critique was not really his playing the 9, it was his finishing as a 9. That was the bigger question. What I liked with him at the 9 is that when he did drop deep, instead of our wide players just staying wide, Minta really slid in to be that central player, which I know he's not the tallest guy, but boy, he is slippery when he gets the ball at his feet isolated. So I noticed him drifting in, and then Weaver was coming further up the pitch wide. So one of the things I like about Hürtler is position seemed to matter less, and how he uses players seems to matter more. And so I think it's going to be an interesting puzzle. And Michael notes in the chat, even Jack did a false 9. And I think the sort of traditional striker role is one that we don't have a behemoth. Even Simas is still only like 6'1", maybe 6'2". So we don't have a big burly, Chris Wood, Erling Haaland type. So I'll just see what it is. But I don't mind Jorginho as the 9, even though I think you're right. His inclinations are more of a 10. He's also very two-footed. And the goal he scored the other day was incredible, was his right foot, which was his weak foot. He scorched that shot. So more of that, please.
Head scratching all round. Joe, quick mention on the Greek chaps. We know that as he's known as Babis, he has been injured. There was a video I think that was put out yesterday or the day before where they talked about it was his first time on the training ground. So we know that he's been injured, but we haven't seen. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation. Is it Simas? Simas, thank you. Greek Steve. We haven't seen much of Greek Steve, have we? Which is a bit disappointing.
We haven't seen much of Greek Steve, and Adam, you refer to him as Tsimikas. So that's the Liverpool fullback.
Well, you see, that's where I'm going. You see, we are in trouble if we're relying on him to play, aren't we? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
terrible, really. Sorry. I had to correct that because otherwise we've got listeners listening tomorrow going, "We've signed a Liverpool." No, we haven't. We haven't. Relax. These Greek kids are intriguing, aren't they? Because they've got such a high potential, and they've had a lot of talk around them, especially Babis Costulas. We spent sort of upwards of £30 million on him, I think, or maybe just under that. There's maybe a little bit of pressure on their shoulders. Maybe a little bit. That makes a lot of sense, Joe. Shut up. It's going to be really interesting to see how quickly they can bed in. Obviously, ending last season, both of them had injuries, so it's not been the easiest of starts for them. I'm sure they would have loved to have been involved in the preseason stuff in Spain. And obviously, Seamas has only played 5 minutes, so it's going to take another maybe couple of months to really see them as regulars in and around the first team. We just have to be patient. And you're right, Adam. We have to be reliant on Danny Welbeck staying fit, which he has his injury problems, but luckily for us, he's touchwood seems to be coming into his own as he gets older. So hopefully we can rely on him to sort of lead the line and just drop that pressure to allow them to bed in and be comfortable doing that. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, 100%. And just a quick word on Danny Welbeck. Yes, he's aging like a fine wine. Dagan, we're going to go on to a bit of rumour rumblings, but it's also sort of linked to pre-season. And the first person I'm going to talk about is Matt O'Reilly. Now, Matt O'Reilly saw a lot of game time during the pre-season. He did very well. Assists, goals, it seemed like a really positive pre-season. But the rumours have persisted with him following some other central midfielders, such as our own Billy Gilmore and that chappie from Man United, that other Scottish bloke that apparently is in the running for the Ballon d'Or. Mental. What a time to be alive when Scott McTominay is being voted in the Ballon d'Or. Anyway.
That's what the pressure of being at Manchester United does to you. You come away from it and then you can become a good player. Imagine my shock that Carlos doesn't want to go there.
Yeah, I know. We'll talk about him in a minute, though. But yeah, Matt O'Reilly, the rumour mill has persisted. You've been keeping your nose to the grindstone on this one. You've been sort of letting us know when things are rumbling around. What is your view on it? Would it be a good move for the player?
There's been a lot of lip service, right? There was the initial report that, he likes playing the 8 more than the 10 and didn't feel great about it. But then he came out and said that was kind of taken out of context and that really he's happy to play anywhere. But we've had these persistent rumors, Roma, Juventus, Atlanta. I don't remember the other. There was another prominent club that was mentioned, but it's been persistent over the course of the summer. I think Everton perhaps was mentioned at one point, but now they have Dewsbury Hall, so it seems like they've filled their cup there. It's hard to know what's true. It doesn't make a lot of sense for us unless we've really decided that he's not an asset, which doesn't make sense with what you just noted. He's been given tons of time in preseason to be successful. So unless we're just putting him in the shop window during preseason to hope that the price escalates, that'd really be the only reason why you would play a guy this much if you were anticipating selling him. But it seems odd to sell such a player at no profit or very little profit, given what we know about Brighton. And I think he's looking quite good. And another player who presses hard and effectively, I think fits into that system. But if he's displeased with playing the 10 and having more goal scoring opportunities than he would at the 8, it seems odd. But I think he does fancy himself, right, a true box-to-box midfielder. I would say I'm not 100% sure he's that in the Premier League, just from an athleticism standpoint. He's not unathletic. He's just not like an incredible athlete. But he's got good size. He's versatile. And he can play there. I just don't know that he's a Premier League top 8, number 8. And I think that's the question. And someone raised that about Douglas Luiz, right, who he potentially would be going to replace. I'd be happy to have Douglas Luiz as our, as a central midfielder. So eye of the beholder. But I'm not going to believe anything until it seems very, very real at this point. Because I can't imagine we're eager to let these guys go. I know we're going to talk about Baleba later, but O'Reilly has a part to play for sure. And I know we have lots of guys who can bring some of what he brings, but he's quite good. He has Champions League experience. There's a lot to like. So I'm not eager to see him leave. But if he wants to go, we've got other guys who can do a job. So we're not going to lose money on the deal. So from that vantage point, I won't be crestfallen if he goes, but I'd rather he didn't.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Dagan. I think playing as an 8 box to box in the Scottish League is very different to playing box to box in the Premier League. No disrespect to the Scottish League, and I know, of course, as you say, he's got Champions League experience, but there's a bit different to going to playing a Champions League game, then playing say 2-3 SPL games, then another Champions League game, then doing it every single week in the Premier League. So
I got to shout you out, Tom, because I was very much on the Matt O'Reilly has done this, that, and the other, and you were less convinced over a year ago, right? Because of his background. So I have to shout you out because you kind of told me so.
It's one of those where Celtic are obviously a huge club in Scotland. They're a huge club globally, but they play in a league of a standard that is probably lower Championship League One. So it is very easy to go there and look incredible. I mean, let's put it this way: when we went up to the Premier League, Rangers signed Connor Goldson from us, and he was their starting centre back, but he was deemed not good enough for us in the Premier League. So it's sort of like, I get it. They're huge. He's got Champions League experience, but so does Abdullah Sima, and he can't get anywhere near our squad. So it's a tough one. Let's move on then, Adam, to the man who's been on everyone's lips the last few weeks, and we've had some news today that it looks like Man United's dream is over, and that is Carlos Baleba. Manchester United are apparently interested, but have deemed the price that we have set to be too high. A huge win for us, and a bit of a boo-hoo moment for the Red Devils.
Yeah, I think for me it was always a bit of a deluded dream for Man United. Especially when you're talking about the price that we're talking. If we're talking that we want more than Caicedo, you're talking upwards of £115 million straight away, before you've even talked about probably the actual price that Brighton would want for him based on the age, the potential that's there and how well he did last season. So I think for me, it's always been a deluded dream. I've never really worried about it too much. I mean, Baleba's always looked happy, as we've seen today in training. He's absolutely buzzing. So, I think for us, it would have been a massive blow to lose him. So I think for us, two of the big wins this transfer window have been keeping hold of Matoma and keeping hold of Baleba, because those were the two last season that were the real keys, because he's just, I don't know, he's just something else. He's just got an engine on him that is incredible. Even in the 85th minute, he's still sprinting, winning the ball, sprinting up the pitch, and he can just, as we've seen with that West Ham winner, he can just pull something out of nothing and just surprise you with a goal that you just wouldn't expect for a holding midfielder, essentially. So for me, he's going to be huge again, and I just hope we can have another season like we had last year, because I think, if we can, then maybe that's then the time we cash in, because then we're probably talking 130 to 150 million potentially. This guy could become the most expensive player in British history if he wanted to, because he's that good. But it's all really about, playing week in, week out, and that's what we guarantee him. Whereas I think if you go to United, one, it's a bit difficult because we know what Man United is like at the minute, and two, there's that immense pressure on you with 115 million minimum price tag on you to perform straight away and transform the United side that just about finished above the relegation. And I think if it wasn't for the three sides going down being a lot worse than them, they would have probably arguably even gone down. That's how bad they were. So for me, I think, as I say, I've not been worried. And, I think today just confirms what we already, most of us probably knew, and a few of us hoped that would happen, that he's not going anywhere. And let's just hope he's sitting in that one of those two midfield roles tomorrow afternoon.
Definitely. Very well said, Adam. Just going to come to a comment made by Michael real quick. And he said about, we've just sent Alcuye out on loan to Swansea. That wouldn't have happened if Carlos Baleba was going to go, because I said this to you, Dagan, in our group chat just the other day. Yalkoye seems to be the natural replacement to Baleba, and Yalkoye again had a really good preseason. He looked really good, and I like to believe that if our midfield wasn't so well stocked, he'd probably be hanging around this season, getting a couple of games here and there. But when you think about, we've got Baleba, Ayari, O'Reilly, Vifa, Hinchelwood, Gomez, these players are all vying for what is fundamentally two positions. I haven't even gotten onto the 10s. So there's a lot of competition already. So it's best that Yalkuye goes out and, gets himself some game time in the Championship. Just really quickly then, Joe, I say really quickly, we can take as long as you want. I don't really care. Let's talk about the transfer window as a whole then, ins and outs. We've seen players go, we've talked about, João Pedro's left, Pervis Estupiñán's left, some pretty big players. I mean, João Pedro going, we shouldn't sniff at that. He's, obviously been immense for us the last few seasons. We've also had an array of players coming in. If you had to give the transfer window a mark out of 10 thus far, what would you give it?
I think given the Baleba news that's come out today, I think I'm approaching giving it a 10 out of 10. That means it might sound crazy, but I think, as you've already alluded to, Adam, keeping Matoma, and it looks as though we'll be keeping Jan Paul van Hecke as well, touch wood. Doesn't seem like he's in a rush to leave, but won't sign a new deal. Hopefully we can convince him otherwise. But yeah, I think it's pretty much perfect if we keep all of this bulk of the squad together, only losing João Pedro when really you naturally felt like it was probably going to be his time to leave anyway. And as well, we looked much better at the end of the season without him, weirdly. And we were scoring goals for fun, and we got 13 points out of our last available 15. So there isn't
any help that he wasn't throwing elbows at people.
Well, of course. So yeah, I don't think there's any reason to panic with losing him. And there's every reason to look at our squad and think we are more than capable with Carlos Baleba to push on to get into Europe again. And it's season defining. I think we need to emphasize that. Us keeping Carlos Baleba is the start of our success, in my opinion. And that might sound like a really obvious thing to say, but honestly, fans were losing their minds a week ago at the fact that we could lose Carlos Baleba. We'd have less than 2 weeks to replace him. And it would have been absolute carnage. And we haven't really got a profile to match Carlos Baleba. There's a lot of numbers that are similar with him and Yalkuye, but they are different players at the end of the day. So yeah, it's great that we can build around him, and that we've got him for one more year, and that he's not on 12.5 grand a week. By the way, Manchester United fans, he's a considerable amount more than that.
Can I just sorry, Joe,
yeah,
I don't mean to interrupt, but we had the same thing with Caicedo as well.
Yeah.
What is it
We
with
did.
like people going, oh, I've checked my FIFA and he's only on 10 grand a week? You're telling me that Carlos Baleba's on less than Tom McGill?
Tom, don't
it's
start
Capology, and it's a Google search. And I'm guilty of it too. Capology, though, I will say they have like verified wages for some. Very few Brighton players will have that green check mark where the wages are verified. And presumably that's through some contact with agents or some source that they have. I know Kieran Maguire refers to it as crapology instead of Capology.
there you go. That says it all.
Yeah, it does, right? There's somebody to talk about football finance. That's the guy.
But leading down this conversation path, that got me in a lot of trouble last time out with Moises Caicedo, because I completely threw Portslade under the bus and said that he was in a crack den in Portslade. I now live in Portslade, so life comes at you very fast. But yeah, I think that was a motorbike, if you heard that. And keeping Carlos is
like delivering the crack.
Injected into my veins. Inject the Carlos news into my veins. It's incredible. I've had a smile on my face since whenever it broke. So yeah, it's a great mood booster ahead of tomorrow, if there wasn't a reason to be cheerful anyway, because football's back. So great.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, Joe. I think keeping hold of your best players is just as big, if not bigger in some cases, than bringing someone in. You know, Van Hecke, Baleba, Matoma, those three were the players that I feared, especially Van Hecke being the player of the season. They were the three players that I feared we'd lose. And it doesn't look like we're going to lose any of them. Touch wood. But yeah, it's huge news to keep those three, and Carlos staying is obviously really good. So you've given it a nice high number. Julie in the comments has gone for a 7. Adrian has gone with an 8.5. Dagan, what will you go for?
Joe gave it a 10, right? Did you say 10, Joe? Yeah, the Baleba news, if that holds, that certainly boosts the score. I don't know that João Pedro was salvageable. It's hard to lose a player like that and feel like it's a 10, but I don't know that we had a whole lot of choice in the matter. Like, I don't think there was a great resolution. I think it was time for Purvis. I think you can make a case that maybe we didn't get the best fee for him relative to what we could have expected. And I think the same case could be made for João Pedro, honestly. I think when you get a player and you're ready to get him out the door, maybe you settle for a little less than you might otherwise receive. So I have a hard time giving it a 10. I think I'm probably around an 8. Tom, I'll probably echo your words. We still don't really have a player that you would say is a right back. Like, we have guys who can play right back, and perhaps ably well. But we still have it. Maybe it's just a longing that we want to sign a right back. And we are going into the season a little bit thin with able strikers. Now that may be, an issue of system and what we want to do. But right, those feel a little bit like vulnerabilities. And then the other piece is, despite having been like, a collection of wingers, the likes of which the world had never seen, all of a sudden we find ourselves without a lot of wingers. There's not a ton of depth behind Matoma.
Yeah. Which is why I was expecting to go with a back three system like he had at St. Pauli, when you had 2 10s instead of, your width would come from your fullbacks, which tactics with Tom time is what I think we're going to see a lot of this season. A lot of marauding fullbacks making the width with the wingers tucking in to make a high box with 2 strikers. I think we are going to see more 4-4-2. Oh, it's going to be beautiful. So you are right, Dagan. I would like to see a right back, but I'm hoping that Ferdy will be the right back. And I'm hoping, in my head, the perfect system is a back 4, but with Mats Vifa then dropping back in like he did in the Dutch league to make a back 4.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. To me, that is like the best of both worlds. Because the 4-4-2
look at these nerds nerding out.
Yeah, because we talk about high press. 4-4-2 is the best formation for a high press, because when you press with a single striker, you're leaving passing options open behind them. But with a front 2, you can close them down, especially in the man-to-man marking. God, I'm going to have a lot of fun this season with tactics tonight.
In terms of tactics,
we agree. Can I? First podcast of the season, we're in agreement. That's so fun.
I just want to give a really quick shout out to James Alcott, who is an incredible YouTuber, and I don't really need to give him publicity on here because he's much bigger than us. But he's just released a tactics board in which you can drag media into it and draw over the media, and you can also use like a tactics board. I pay for the premium subscription. It's incredible. Honestly, we could use that, and it would be really fun. But if there's anyone that wants to like familiarize themselves with tactics, that is the perfect tool to download, and just drag a screenshot in of our build up. You can draw lots of lines and highlight lots of players, and it's all fun and fancy. You can pretend to be a match of the day. So if I remember, I'll put it in the description.
Please do.
But if not, just go to jlatacticsboard.com or something. But yeah, I'll put it in the description.
That sounds beautiful. You'll have to forgive me, viewers, for getting a smidge excited about tactics. I do get genuinely and embarrassingly excited about the tactics of it all. I just think it's just incredible. So yeah, I would like to see a fullback, as Dagan says, and I think Dagan, you've also echoed the striker, and I think I would be less inclined to be worried about a striker if we'd seen more of Seamas in pre-season. So because he's a bit of an unknown, for what it's worth, I'm going to jump in and say I'm also at an 8, just because I feel like there are 2 positions that we're probably a little bit thin on. But again, if Ferdy slots in at right back and Seamas hits the ground running, same question to you then, Adam. The final one on the ground. We've all gone for high marks. Please don't give us any lower than 5.
No, I'm not going to give a 5. That would be brutal. I think for me, I'd go a 7.5. Now that's mainly due to the striker issue, because I am genuinely concerned about that striker issue. I mean, I wouldn't have been so concerned had we not loaned out a Ferguson or somebody like that. I mean, I get he didn't, light the world up last season, but he is a genuine number 9. So I just worry if Welbeck gets injured and he disappears for a couple of months, then what happens? It's sort of, there's a lot of emphasis on Welbeck and a lot of pressure on him, especially with Pedro going, because there's no one to rotate in and switch in. So for me, that worries me. I think the fullback thing you guys have alluded to as well, again, I'm a little bit concerned about that right back area, because we know Lamptey is not injury free for most of the season. So you're going to at least come up with 1 injury for him a season, and they tend to be pretty lengthy. Veltman is obviously getting older. He's done a terrific job over the years, but is he going to be what Hertzler exactly wants if he's going for this high, getting fullbacks up, right attacking? He's probably not your man for that side of things. If you're playing a flat back 4, perfect. He can do that. But I just worry that we are a little bit short in fullbacks that are going to be there week in, week out. That's my worry with the likes of Kadioglu, Lamptey, etc., who have had these injuries. So for me, that's why I've gone for a 7.5. And, as I say, it's good news that we've kept hold of who we've kept hold of, but I just worry about that, in particular, that striker thing. And given what we've seen from Ruter in the finishing side of the department that Dagan mentioned earlier as well, because, that's a lot of goals when you take out Pedro's goals and assists, plus you wipe out Danny Welbeck's goals and assists. If you're losing that many goals and assists, you are a bit short then when you come to the next, because I think although Matoma scored 10, he's, again, has his injury issues. So it's very, for me, it's just very concerning, that striker role.
Yeah, it is, and I think as I've just said, it's that lack of knowledge about the CMAS, that we've brought in, obviously Babis as well, that can play as a part of a front 2, if you like, but because we don't know anything about them, because we've not seen them play, it's really hard to to see that strength in depth in that position. Yeah, Michael, you're right. Joel, Ferdy, Tarek, Mats, and Jack can all play right back. But, again, with Joel, as Adam's just alluded to, it depends on the system we want to play, depends on the goal. They can all do an able-bodied job there. In regards to Jack, he's been great at right back, but I want to see him in midfield. I want to see him bombing on into the false 9 position. We played him up front last year and it was blooming wonderful. So let's hope we see more of Jack in his natural position and not at fullback. Yes, Dagan.
Breaking news. The first goal of the Premier League season has been scored
by Bournemouth,
assisted by Alexis McAllister, scored by Hugo Ekitike.
My fantasy captain in our league, guys. I've got off to a hot start here. As long as he'll get sent off in a minute now.
Was bold.
Paying off.
It was a bold choice, but it might have paid off here. It might have paid off.
I don't play fantasy. I did it last season. I think I picked the first week and then I never changed it. So more on that later, because I know that the lads are applying it. So that's it for pre-season. That's it for the transfer window. I'm sure there'll be some more twists and turns in the transfer window. It looks unlikely that we will bring anyone else in based on what I've heard in regards to, was it Bloom or Barber that said he didn't expect there to be many, if any, more incomings. But Dagan is looking confused and bewildered.
I thought there was a comment after that alluded to maybe one.
Ooh, interesting. Let's wait and see. what happens there. My last question then, Joe, is we've talked about the ins, we've talked about Diego Coppola, Oliver Boscagli, Babis, Tom Watson, again, who we've not actually mentioned him at all because he's nowhere to be seen. De Kuiper, how many, if any, do you think we will see tomorrow?
I think there's a good chance of seeing obviously De Kuiper, who ended pre-season in a really good way, getting his first goal in front of the Amex crowd, which was my daughter's first game, so I had to give her a shout out. She hated it, and it was the worst 90 minutes I've ever endured because toddler. But other than that, it was great to see De Kuiper's first goal. So yeah, I think we'll see him. I think Julie asked, who do you think will start tomorrow? So I'm just going to give you my 11, Tom, and you're going to have to sit there and listen to it. Bart Verbruggen in goal. I would go with Wiefer, Van Hecke, Dunk, and De Kuiper, and then Hinch. No, maybe. Do I go? No,
Is
Ayari. No, everyone's available except for Webster and Solly, apparently. So I'm going to go Ayari and Baleba. And then ahead of them, Minte, Jorginho, and Matoma, and then Welbeck. So to answer your question in a really long way, because I want you to listen to my voice, Tom, we're only going to see De Kuiper. Maybe some new ones off the bench.
For what it's worth, Joe, that is exactly my starting 11 and the answer to my question. Oh, someone's pinged. Dagan, I'm going to fire this one right at you. As the resident optimist of the group, I'm sure you'll love what Tony Bloom stated on the official Brighton podcast, saying that the club are aiming to win trophies and cannot stand still. What big words for our new season from the main man, Tony Bloom. So for you, Dagan, what would, I know this is early days and it seems really sort of like weird to ask this question, but what would be a success and what would be deemed a failure in your eyes, if anything? Do Americans believe in failure?
It's cute. It's cute.
Just look at their national team.
I would. Wow. Shots fired. You could say more cutting things than prefer to the national team, but thank you. We do. Given the long term of Brighton, our level of expenses, I really think, despite our targets, it would be hard to qualify anything in the top 15 a failure. A failure. It could be a disappointment, but if we're staying up, we didn't fail, right? Going down is failure. And I really do think, given how badly Sunderland has spent already, I think they're about to go as the most ever for a team coming up for promoted side. I think they're going to be over 150 million pounds. Breaking Forest was 144 million pounds in 22. And they just barely stayed up. It's really hard to stay up, but teams want it very desperately. So I would say that. To be a success, I think Europe is the hallmark of like, yes, this was a successful season, bar none. I think looking back at last season, it's hard to call last season not a success coming in 8th. It was disappointing to miss out for sure, but I wouldn't qualify the season as any kind of disappointment. It's clear to me that we are building toward something. I think it's easy to be impatient and expect the thing that we're building toward to come sooner than it has. But the reality is what we have done over the past now 4 seasons, 9th, 6th, 11th, 8th, given our expenditures, is unparalleled by any other team in the best league in the world. So we are an unqualified, right, success, I think, by that definition. I would say top 8 again, even if that meant we missed out, would be my final answer. Another successful season would be doing as well as we did last year or better. I want Europe. Tony wants Europe. We all want Europe. But some things are out of your control. Like we have injuries like last year and we finish 8th again. It's a successful season. It's a long-winded answer, as is I want to do from time to time. But I think we'll be somewhere between, 4th and 14th, right? Like, I think that's what's most likely. I think everybody is saying, Chelsea has a lock on a top 4 slot this year. I'm not yet convinced of that. I'm not yet convinced, honestly, of anyone. And yeah, if you told me that Brighton won the whole thing, I wouldn't tell you were crazy. I think things could go right and we could be Leicester. I continue to hold that possibility as a possibility. Chemistry is a funny thing, and City and Liverpool are completely rebuilt. They're completely rebuilt. Arsenal has a lot of depth. I would say of the years that I've seen, I think they have the best chance this year for it to be Arsenal's year. You didn't ask that question, but just a side note. Yeah, I know. But...
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Dagan. It was a long answer, but it goes to show you that success and failure should never just be seen as arbitrary things with binary. And that's what I said to you last year, I think, in the group chat. My definition of success changed based on how the year was going, because it was so topsy-turvy. And as you say, finishing the season where we did with the injuries that we had at times, no way you can call it anything but a success. There were frustrations along the way, sure. But overall, yeah, it was a really good season. Same question to you, Adam. Do you think that Tony Bloom's words for you show that he is eager for us to make another charge on Europe? Would a top 10 finish be success even if we didn't make Europe this season for you?
I think for me it would. I think our aim has always been, as Paul Barber and I think Bloom has said over the past few years, to establish ourselves as a regular top 10 side in the Premier League. And if we can do that again this season, what's that? That's three top 10 finishes in the last 4 seasons or something like that. So, I mean, that is, beyond my wildest dreams. I mean, going to my first game for Brighton up at Northampton, in League One, we're talking, like as a 13-year-old, and to now be where we are 15 years later is just incredible. So I think, for me, I'm a bit like Dagan. Anything, around that sort of 15th and above for me is good, staying in the league another season. But I think given the depth this season, I really think a top 10 finish is really achievable. My only concern is, as I say, injuries are a concern, and other teams are going to get better. I mean, I can't see Tottenham and United having another similar season to what they had last season. They will pick up. Where they finish, I'm not sure, but I certainly think there will be teams that are, a lot better than they were last season, and there will be teams that are not as good as they were last season. So for me, I think there's a good opportunity. I think there's a good opportunity for winning some silverware. I definitely think a Carabao Cup or an FA Cup is not beyond our reach. We've shown we can go the distance in an FA Cup and get to the latter stages. It's just getting over that final hurdle. But for me, I think that's our most realistic chance of silverware in the near future for me.
Sounds very good. Now, gents, I'm going to give you this question now. I don't want the answer. I'm going to come back to you at the very end. Someone remind me, because I will forget. As we talk about the Fulham game, I want you to mull this over in the back of your heads. I want you to think about who's going to win the league, where Brighton are going to finish, and the relegated 3, please. I'm going to come to you at the end of the show to get those answers. Someone remind me in the comments, because I will forget. ADHD, it's a thing. Joe, Fulham, tomorrow. You've given us your starting 11. Now, Fulham have had a relatively decent preseason from what little research I've done. They have had wins against Forest, Al Ittihad, and Frankfurt. As Dagan has already alluded to, some of their key players out wide could possibly miss tomorrow's game. It's a good way to start, playing up against a team that we know very well. Fulham and Brighton have been bouting it out for years gone by. It must be seen as a very winnable fixture for us, but probably a winnable fixture for them as well. What do you expect to see tomorrow against a team that has historically given us some headaches?
Yeah, plenty of headaches. I said I went on the Fulham Focus podcast yesterday. Shout out to them. Thanks for having me on, guys. And I said that I think we traded all of our success against Fulham in that promotion season. We played them twice. We stunk the place out twice, and we won twice. So that's had to trade for very much negative results in the Premier League. And Craven Cottage has been a horrible place to go for us. Luckily, we're not starting there. We hopefully broke the curse last season with that last-minute João Pedro penalty. I think they're going into it really pessimistic. From what I heard from the guys yesterday, they say Marco Silva feels like they're not ready for the start of the Premier League season. So it's a huge opportunity for us to pounce on that and to get off on the front foot really early on, put that pressure on them and say, well, we're here and ready. So what have you got to answer that? And if they haven't got two of their most important pieces as their fullbacks, Anthony Robertson was fantastic for them. And I think the other one's Kenny Tete, is it? Who is also an excellent player. So, and looking at us, we've got Minte and Matoma who can pull strings for us when they want to, and have done on many occasions. So hopefully I'm not building it up to be a full-blown conclusion that we're going to win, because that always comes to bite Brighton fans on the bum if we're confident going into a game. So I think I'll reserve my optimism at the moment, given the Fulham curse. But hopefully we're all smiling come 5 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, let's certainly hope so. Dagan, is there anything you want to see tomorrow, result aside? Is there anything in particular that you want to see from Hörsler's team in the first game of the season?
I would say if we don't give up a counter-attacking goal, we win going away. That would be the thing. I think Iwobi breakaway, in the space that is open behind to Kuiper, is like the terrifying thing that I see in the back of my head, whether he scores or assists. They're also potentially missing Muniz. I know Silva said he's available, but he's been rumored away, and to the point that it was nearly a here we go. So we'll see if that happens, and if he actually is available, he's available or available. Air quotes in play there. I don't know if you want a prediction, but I really do like our chances. I think we have great potential, similarly, to hurt them down the flanks. I think this is going to be a massive season for Yankuba Minteh. I really expect that he's, might be our player of the season this year. That's going to be a bold prediction. But I love that guy. I love how hard he works, and I think the confidence that he started to show at the end of the season and has shown in preseason. If he gets a couple of goals early, that bowling ball could be rolling downhill and it could be a real problem. So I'm backing him to get at least one goal contribution tomorrow. And I like a 2-0 lead or 3-0 lead and we give one away late is sort of what I'm thinking. So let's say 3-1 to the Albion. We're gonna put goals on the board.
Fair play. Adam, same question to you. Is there anything in particular that you want to see tomorrow? Any players that you want to see tomorrow? And a score prediction at the end, please.
For me, I always just ask desire and hunger. Show it, especially at home, first game of the season. Let's go for it. This is a real opportunity. We like to start the season fast, get a few points under our belt early on. We've done that over the past few seasons. So for me, as long as I see that, I'm not too fussed on the result myself. I think for me, just given the players that Fulham are missing, I think in particular Robinson at left back, he is a hell of a player. So, to have him potentially not around is going to give us a great chance down that right side. And I just think given the strength and the players that we've got, I think we're going to have too much for them. So I was actually going to say 3-1 before Dagan threw out his score prediction. So I'll just follow his suit, to be honest.
Yeah, Adam, you're just copying.
Well, I would have said 4-1, but you know what? I don't want to give us too much of a big balloon.
I'll give you a score prediction, Tom, because I forgot to. I will go 3-1, no. 2-0 to the Albion.
I'd take scoring 2 instead of 3, but keeping a clean sheet. I think for me, the clean sheet would be the icing on top of the cake tomorrow. I think, you've said it, Dagan, about the breakaway goals. That is a slight concern with a fullback like De Kuiper, he's going to be pushing up top and also potentially playing a central midfielder as a right back as well. I worry that we're going to get hit on the counter.
And Dunk being potentially the left-sided center back who is not going to get a run with Iwobi down that flank. That's the nightmare in my head.
Yeah, I agree, and that's where someone like Oliver Bascagli would be so good as that left-sided centre back. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that one. So for me, a win would be key. Hunger and desire, as you say, Adam. Get the Amex crowd going, because we've always been, I said it before, I don't mean this in a negative way, we've always been in a reactionary crowd. Give us something to cheer and we will cheer.
Shout out to the club as well for installing safe standing. I think that's going to
that's going to really help.
The
atmosphere. I know a lot of people, some people have grumbled about it. A lot of people are really, really happy about it. So hopefully that will sort of help the atmosphere in the Amex, which I know has been a point of contention, for many fans for many years now. So give the Amex crowd something to cheer about, and I'm sure the Amex crowd will respond in kind. So for me, a win would be great. A clean sheet would be even better. And a score prediction for me, I'm going to stay with you, Joe. I'm going to go with 2-0 with goals coming from Jorginho Ruta and let's go with Yankuba Minteh, because I follow suit with you, Dagan. I think he's going to have a really big season, and I think he'll be the player next summer that we're going to struggle to potentially keep hold of. Before I come, gentlemen, I'm just going to give you a few more minutes to discuss the question I asked you previously, because I know Joe would like to talk to you about Fananalyze. Fan analysis. Fananalyze.
Perfect. Don't have to say anything. That was so good, Tom. I love that. It's called Fanalysis. So it's a new app that's hopefully coming to everybody soon. It's in its beta season. There have been some applicants going forward to help us build the app. So I say that like I'm actually working on the app. Basically, I've been selected as one of the Brighton & Hove Albion starting 11 in terms of creating content for them and driving the narrative around our club and taking the narrative back into our own hands as fans rather than the media narratives that we get extremely frustrated about. There's been some big names behind this. Sky Sports have partnered with Hungry Bear Media, who is a company chaired by Michael McIntyre, who is a huge Spurs fan, and he is really excited about this project. So it's really fun. There's a link in the description if you want to apply to be part of the test. I know Tom and Adam have put their names forward to be part of the test as well.
Yeah, I'm not going to be allowed to do it now because I called it Fanalize.
Yeah, exactly. Tom's axed. Adam's got the job. So yeah, it's going to be really exciting to see.
I'm keeping hold of my position at this point.
Yeah, it'd be exciting to see what happens with that. And there's a lot of starting 11s for other clubs as well that you're going to see appearing on Sky Sports, fan shows and stuff like that. As I say, it's just about taking that narrative back. We are the fans that care the most about our football club at the end of the day. And it's just fantastic to see such a big couple of companies that are really taking that on. So yeah, keep an eye out for that, and keep an eye out for the content that comes from myself as well, because I'm really excited about it.
It is, and Joe, I'm going to throw you under the bus here. You've also been, you and your best mate Johnny Cantor he's been tweeting about you. So tell us a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. I received a message a couple of months ago from somebody at the BBC saying, we would love to get you on board as a fan, sort of columnist or writer, to sort of contribute to BBC this season. And it was an opportunity that I never thought I would have. And something that came up over the last few days was that it was Johnny Cantor that actually recommended me. So that is such an incredible feeling to have somebody of that stature. You know, he's the voice of Brighton of Albion. We've had him on the podcast. Such a lovely guy. Luckily for me, he's asked me to come on BBC Sussex tomorrow before the game to talk about it. So if you want to tune into that, BBC Sussex around, I'm not sure if it's live, but if it is, it'll be around 1 p.m. So yeah, really exciting times. These opportunities that are coming, I'm so thankful for, and there's been so many people that have helped me on my way to getting these opportunities. You guys, other people that have come and gone from the podcast as well. So I'm eternally grateful, and I hope I do people proud in terms of the content that I'm going to produce for these incredible companies. Sky Sports and BBC it's mind blowing, and I sit here sometimes and think like imposter syndrome a little bit, but yeah, I'm really, really humbled by it.
Yeah, it's well deserved, mate. It's it shows the graft that you've put into this podcast, and I'm going to embarrass you here. It shows the graft you've put in, not just to the podcast, but into other aspects of the Brighton and Hove Albion community. So wish you all the best with Johnny tomorrow. If you do want to get a cheeky Albion Obsessed tag in there, please do.
I will.
And of course, now you're best mates with JC. See if we can get him and Warren on the podcast. That'd be fun. I'd love to chat to Warren Aspinall. What a guy!
That would be carnage.
Yeah, so the double act of him would be great. Just before we go on to my question, because I've been teasing you over it now, Dagan and Joe, you guys are sort of running the Albion Obsessed FPL League this season, I believe. So do you want to just tell the people about your little FPL league? That sounds
Go on,
nice.
Dagan. You take
Joe,
this.
you run it. You set it up. I just
but you're the FPL guy. You do it.
I'm the FPL guy. I've done FPL exactly 2 years. This is my third. The code is out there. I don't know if I guess you can still join after the first week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Adam's nodding yet. I think Adam knows more than I do.
Adam, you do it.
But no,
I have like
FPL is awesome. I've had so much fun. There's a work league. The name of my team, if you're wondering, our work league when it began was loosely Star Trek themed, and you were encouraged to have Star Trek related names. So Live Long and Proper was my Brighton / Star Trek reference. So if you see my team name, that's why it is what it is. So yeah, funny team names. If you're not doing FPL, you ought to, because it is fun and it can take as much time as you want. You could spend hours making spreadsheets and researching, or you can, take 5 minutes and set your lineup and then laugh with your buddies when it goes.
And then never change it like I did last season.
Don't do that. Stay engaged.
That was me last season, but I've set reminders on my phone for every game week to sort my team out. So I'm coming for you, title. I'm coming for you.
I will say I like that they threw away the assistant manager chip and did the double chips for each half of the year. I think it makes the game a lot more interesting, and the strategy is a little deeper.
I too like chips. And on that bombshell, we are going to go back to the question I asked you previously. I asked you to think of the Premier League winner. I asked you to think of where Brighton are going to finish and the relegated three. So, Wheel of Fortune. Let's see who it's going to land on. We're going to go with Adam. Give us yours, please. I'm coming to you first.
Title winner, we'll start with. Excuse the dog in the background. He's just gone ballistic. He's obviously not a clear fan of my title winner, so I'll go with that. But I'm going to go for a bit of a slightly left field, probably not the most that everyone would go for. I'm going to go for Arsenal to win, just based on, I think they've got it this year. I think the signing of Gyökeres, for me, is going to be the key for them. Having a proper number 9 is going to be the difference that gets them over the line this year. Brighton's finish, I'm going to go for 7th. I'm not sure if that will lead to European football. I'm not sure. It depends, I guess, what happens throughout the season and who wins what. But I will go for 7th for that. And then the relegated 3, I'm going to go for Burnley to go straight back down. I'm going to chuck Brentford in the mix because I just think they've lost too many goals, especially if Whistle was to go. I think that would really tip them over the edge. But I think the loss of Flecken Mbuemo, Norgard as well is a massive dent in the spine of the team. And with Keith Andrews, I mean, he was a terrific player, and he seems like a really nice guy, knows how to talk, but I just don't know if that's a risky one to take, especially when you've lost the manager as well, and you've lost all those players that I talked about. And then for the final one, I think I'll go Leeds, just because I think Sunderland, in terms of the signings they've made, have got a bit more Premier League experience there. So I think they'll have enough to stay up. And I would quite like them to stay up, because I think that, Adingra, I hope he absolutely flies, because he was, just unfortunately things didn't work out for him with our squad depth, etc. And, they've brought some good players in. So I think, I'd say that is my 3 to go down.
Thank you very much, Adam. Wheel of Fortune time. Let's count down. Joe.
Oh, these puns, Tom, you're killing me.
Oh, mate, it's good to be back. It's so good to be back. I haven't done this in weeks, in months, because of my house move. You've got to let me have a bit of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. What was the question? No, I'm joking. First,
this is the sort of professionalism that you can get on Fanalyze.
Oh, it's incredible. Fanalysis, Tom, come on.
Tom's
killing me. Absolutely killing me. I don't know if you guys saw it last season, but Tom said a crazy pun that just finished me off. Predictions. Liverpool first, Brighton in 6th, relegated 3, Wolves, Brentford, and Burnley. Burnley 20th, Brentford 19th, Wolves 18th. Bye-bye.
Interesting indeed. That leaves you, Dagan, before I take the wheel.
I'm going to start with going back down. Burnley, Leeds, Wolves. So we had the same group there roughly. And it's a Wolves Sunderland coin flip for me. Brentford and Bournemouth both have lost a ton, but I'm not convinced they'll drop all the way down. I placed a bet on us to finish top 6 some time ago. I placed another bet on us to finish top 8 as well. I think 7th or 8th is probably the most likely result if I'm being realistic. But again, I think if things break the right way, it could be a little higher. I'm gonna say 6th because that's what I bet the most on. So I feel like I should say 6th. The strengthening of Spurs concerns me. Namely, but Thomas Frank is a fantastic manager, and I think he is going to make them so much better. So I worry about them as a team that could leapfrog us. I'm not sure United is there. I think if they had Baleba, I would expect them to finish ahead of us, like the loss of Baleba to us and them adding them. So they're the Big 6 club. I think we have the best chance of still finishing ahead if I had to pick, because we obviously have to finish ahead of one of them to finish 6th. But I do think, Newcastle losing Isak and playing Champions League, Villa in Europe, Palace in Europe, Forest in Europe, there are a lot of teams around us, and then the weakening of Bournemouth and Brentford. I think we stand a good chance to be right in that Europe mix with good reason. Did I forget a question?
Title winner.
That left that for last intentionally. I'm really torn, and part of me thinks I don't have a great prediction until we see how the window closes. If Liverpool gets Isak, I'm picking Liverpool. If they don't, I think I agree with Adam. I feel like Arsenal might have the best shot. City needs Haaland to really return to form. I think he will, but I think there's still questions about them staying fit, what their goal is going to look like. But they could well bring in Donnarumma, which what a travesty for Trafford if they do. Be really, really disappointing. Anyway, that's my thought. So I'm being very non-committal. I know that's not an answer, but Liverpool with Isak, Arsenal if Isak doesn't go to Liverpool.
Very, very good. I'm going to do reverse order like you, Dagan. I'm going to go bottom 3. I think Leeds and Burnley go back down, I think that there will be a much closer last bottom base, and I think it will be Brentford, Wolves, Sunderland. I'm also going to throw West Ham into the mix. I think they might be dragged right into that bottom basement battle, if you like. I'm going to probably go Brentford just because, as you know, Adam's already sort of said, they've just been hit really hard with players. Keith Andrews, he played for us for a season, top bloke, can't fault him. But it's just a lot with the amount of players that they've lost and an inexperienced manager at the helm. So I think Brentford might find themselves going back down. Title winners, I'm going to go with, if Liverpool get Isak, it's hard to see how they don't just win at a canter again. I'm not convinced about Gyökeres. He just wants to run. He just wants to run and run and run, and I think he'll get found out. It's really difficult. I don't know if you know this, but Gyökeres used to play for us, Joe. He played like twice, and then we sold him because he wasn't as good as Aaron Connolly. I joke, of course.
Next you'll be telling our manager's 32.
32, is he? And I've deliberately left this one for last because the ball hasn't been kicked. I'm just feeling ridiculously optimistic. Maybe it's just the Cornish sea air. I'm going to go 5th. There you go. Last day, I reckon it'll go down to the last day. Right, I reckon it'll be like a 4-way sort of who's going to finish in the top 5. And I reckon Brighton will win on the last day. We'll finish 5th. There you go. Boom.
I have never
That is the
Dagan so happy.
It's the Cornish air. It's what it does to me. That
the
horrible West Midlands air made me feel all sad and gloomy. But now I'm by the sea. I'm back, baby.
I feel like I've got a full-fledged conversion happening here. I feel Adam was talking about 15 years ago, and I was thinking, when I first came on, and we had finished 9th the season before, and I was with all full voice and confidence saying we will finish better this year than last, and people looked at me like I had 3 heads. Now folks are predicting Brighton finishing in the Champions League spot, which is just it pleases me greatly. It pleases me greatly.
Obviously, I think there's a lot of things that need to go right, as you've sort of said, Dagan. If we can stay injury free, I wouldn't even be that fussed about bringing any more players in. If we can stay injury free and keep Welbeck on ice and just use him wisely, I think this could be a season where we, as you alluded to, Dagan, there's a lot of teams that sort of would normally be around sort of where we're fighting for that might have their focus drawn elsewhere. I think that Spurs will be better, but I don't think they'll quite be back to where they would normally want to be. And I think it will be a mixture of us, Chelsea, Spurs, sort of vying for that sort of top bit. And as I said, I think it'll come down to like the last day, and we'll just pip whoever's battling with for 5th. So there you go. There's my prediction. Top 5, and Tony will be very happy. So there you go.
My wife's always very happy. What are you talking about? My wife's called Tony, if no one knows.
Let us know, viewers, your predictions down below. If you're catching this on Catch, if you are live, of course, you can, to drop in. Michael has said we finished 6th with Burnley, Leeds and Brentford going down. Julia said that Liverpool are looking good for being 2-0 up at the moment. So a lot of people saying similar sort of things. Great minds and all that, guys. Great minds. But let's hope then tomorrow, starts a season off well. It's always worth remembering, no matter how well or badly tomorrow goes, it is only one game out of a lot. There's still a lot of football to be played. So when we eventually win 5-0 tomorrow and we're top of the table, everyone just needs to calm down. Or conversely, if we lose 5-0 and we're at the bottom of the table, everyone needs to chill the beans. Looking at you here, future Tom, chili beans. I think it's going to be a really exciting day.
And it's also worth remembering.
Already. Joe, would you like to say something to the class?
Please, Mr. Budgeon. It's worth remembering that we will be back with post-match reaction. Hopefully on Sunday. I'm going to talk to the guys after this and see what we can do. podcast coming thick and fast. We've had a little bit more of a break than we usually do in pre-season, but we are back, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to go. So Albion Obsessed content, thick and fast.
We just spoke of Tony Bloom and the table. I just have to give a quick plug. I think I'm a Hearts fan now. The Tony Bloom investment in Hearts. If you're not paying attention to the Scottish League, after 2 weeks, Hearts are top of the table. 4 points clear of Rangers, which, breaking up that 2-team dominance is sort of Tony Bloom's stated goal there. Would love to see him hit, goals with all of his teams this year.
Wouldn't that be something? USG winning their league, Hearts, top 2, us top 5. Uncle Tony deserves it.
If you want to hear more about Hearts as well, a couple of episodes ago, we had a Hearts fan on the podcast to talk about the investment as well. So it was super interesting to hear about that. And I think maybe a lot of the stigma towards Scottish football from English football fans is that it's not good quality and you shouldn't watch it. But if you're a Brighton fan, absolutely invest those Hearts stocks because something special could happen for sure.
I watched, just as we digress here, I watched the highlights of Hearts' opening fixture, and the weather was just shocking, and it was so windy. I was just like, oh, what a great advert for Scottish football. So yeah, it's I'm going to be similar to you, Dagan. I'm going to be keeping my eye on Hearts this season. I really hope they do well. I do find it hilarious. For those of you who may remember a little thing that went out a couple of years ago about Brighton partnering with Hibernian, Hearts arch rivals. We posted something about it on social media and then nothing ever happened. And then a few years later, Uncle Tony invests in their arch rivals' Hearts. It's just funny. I think it's funny.
One other word, if I may. Tom, you said as much in praise of Joe. But I just want to add too, because come to know you well over the past couple of years, and good things eventually happen to good people who have their hearts in the right place, and you are that, my friend. And I know how much you care for the club and you care about all of us, and being a good steward of the community. And it's really fitting to me that you're picking up all these opportunities people are asking you. But I think a lot of that is because your heart is so good and true. And you care so much about, looking out for others. And your work with Mental Health United to, what you do in the Brighton community. You're a quality human being, and it shines through. So I couldn't be happier for the opportunities that you're picking up. And I know they're going to shine a positive light on AO as you always do. But you're a good friend, and a good person, and I'm eternally grateful to be a part of this group. So,
thanks, man. Really appreciate that. That's nice. Thank you.
Oh, it's good to be back. What a wholesome
it really is. Lovely. Oh, Dagan, you're going to make me cry.
I want to make a joke quick.
If you are catching us on catch up, we're not on the BBC. If you are,
might be soon. No, I'm joking.
If
that's
you
not
are
going to happen.
catching us on YouTube or Spotify afterwards, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content already if you haven't done so. If you are catching us on YouTube after the fact, drop some comments about your predictions about how Brighton are going to come in the league, where the new signing is going to fit in. Are there players that we still need to bring in to strengthen my top 5 aspirations? But no, thank you very much for joining us for the first episode of the 25-26 season. As I say, it is bloody lovely to be back. And all that's left to say is, wherever you may be, whenever you may be, we will see you next time. Take care.